as per my understanding, according to the legal structure of Sri Lanka, it's not feasible to actually transform an existing gasoline vehicle to electric vehicle. That is my understanding. So I think in addition to that, obviously, the vehicle that you are converting was not initially meant to be used for electric mobility. So ideally, I think that transition should happen organically, where we bring in a new fleet of vehicles, electric vehicles, along with setting up the infrastructure locally to ensure that that transition can be met. So I think one other important point, just touching to that, in terms of the energy, one of the important things we need to identify is, in my personal opinion, I mean, obviously different people may disagree with me, but my personal opinion is one of the first steps we need to ensure is in this journey, we need to have a game plan of being energy secure. Because if we are not in a position to generate the electricity that is required, that's going to be a huge problem. I think it's often, I mean, we really need to understand that one of the biggest expenses we make is for fossil fuel as a country. And we spend that, and I think we saw the repercussions of that over the last several months. But I think even after coming out of that, I think we are not being cognizant of the dramatic effect that it will have on our lives if we go through that same process. So I think essentially one of the main focuses should be in terms of reducing the fossil fuel bill that we are putting in the country. And that should come with a view towards ensuring a very strong, a very reliable base load. So if you talk about the electricity supply, there's always, we talk about a base load, which is basically the primary demand that is there throughout the 24 hours of the day. And we will have cycles, peaks and troughs. So we'll have peaks. Now this is a peak where there's more demand because people will be switching on lights and maybe turning on TV and so on. There would be troughs. So let's say, for example, late night, we won't be using electricity a lot unless maybe some of you would want to watch the Football World Cup. So, I mean, other than that, most of the time the demand would be less and it will be getting to a low. So the point is that we need to have a very reliable base load. And one of the issues with, now, I don't want to open a can of worms by saying this, but I think that, I mean, nuclear is one of the best ways to get there, nuclear energy. It's not talked about a lot. Because traditionally when we talk about renewable energy, we talk about the first thing that comes to your mind is essentially solar and wind. But nuclear is also, I mean, we've had catastrophes in the future, but the technology has progressed over the years. And it is much more reliable in terms of ensuring a constant supply of energy. Whereas if you take other sources of energy that we are talking about often, it has an issue called intermittency, where the supply would change based on the conditions. So let's say, for example, wind. If there's no wind, obviously you can't generate electricity. You might have to, switch to different means. If there's photovoltaic electricity generation, solar panels, depending on the position of the sun, well, you can tilt there are technologies to do that, but if there's rain, if there's cloud cover, there are issues with that. With hydropower, we all see this because like now, I mean, better to compare a couple of months ago where there were essentially very little power cuts because we had sufficient downpours of rain and we had hydropower to run on. But come in a few months, we might not have that luxury because there's an intermittency, we'd have to look for future. So I think one of the important things is in terms of the discussion, we'll have to sort of think about ensuring that we have a base load that is capable of providing energy security, and then we have to couple that with the progressive transformation into electric vehicle fleet, where there can be incentives given to, already there are incentives to set up solar panels and solar charging at homes, where we have a very systemic solution in terms of charging, especially if you don't own a premises of your own. If you're renting a place, you might have to find places to charge. So we have several charging networks which are available, but in certain parts you don't find ample amount of them, especially if you go outside of the Western Province. There are, but not as much as you'd want. So all of this needs to sort of come into the picture. I personally don't think, to wrap up, that transforming an existing vehicle which was meant for a different purpose to electric vehicles is the way forward. We should have much more ingenuity in ensuring that we come up with solutions which are sustainable, and that comes through electric vehicles which are designed to drive using electricity.
Absolutely. You made some very good points there.